The library at Ridgemont Academy smelled of leather-bound books and lemon polish. Afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting golden rectangles across the mahogany tables. Maya Chun sat in her usual corner, calculus textbook open, pencil moving in precise strokes across graph paper. She'd claimed this spot freshman year quiet, overlooked, perfect for someone who found peace in equations. Her black hair was pulled into a practical ponytail, and her wire-rimmed glasses kept sliding down her nose as she worked. The daughter of a hospital janitor and a grocery store cashier, Maya understood that excellence wasn't optional. It was survival. Every A she earned was a brick in the bridge toward scholarship, toward college, toward a life where her parents wouldn't have to work double shifts anymore. "Hey, Chun." The voice shattered her concentration like a rock through glass. Maya didn't look up. She knew that voice. Trent Morrison, lacrosse captain, heir to Morrison Construction, a boy who moved through Ridgemont like he owned every hallway and locker. His shadow fell across her calculations, blocking the light. "I need your homework for Calculus BC. Due in 20 minutes. It wasn't a request. Maya kept her eyes on her paper, her pencil steady, even as her heart rate climbed. "I don't share homework, Trent." Silence stretched between them, thick and dangerous. Then Trent laughed a short, ugly sound. "You think I'm asking?" He leaned down, his expensive cologne suffocating. "People like you should be grateful people like me even notice you exist." Maya's hand tightened around her pencil until her knuckles went white. She thought of her mother's words from that morning. "Head down, work hard, don't make waves." But something in Trent's tone, the casual cruelty, the certainty of entitlement, ignited a spark she didn't know she possessed. She looked up, meeting his pale blue eyes directly. "No," she said quietly. "Do your own work." The temperature in the library seemed to drop 10 degrees. Trent's face flushed red, then white. Behind him, two of his teammates materialized like summoned demons. Derek and Chase, always present for Trent's performances. "What did you just say to me?" Trent's voice went dangerously soft. Maya forced herself to breathe normally, to project a calm she didn't feel. "I said no. I'm not giving you my homework." "That's academic dishonesty." Trent's hand shot out and grabbed her calculus textbook, slamming it shut with enough force to make nearby students jump. Paper scattered like frightened birds. "Listen carefully," he whispered, his face inches from hers. "My dad just donated $500,000 for the new athletic center. The principal plays golf with him every Sunday. You're here on some diversity scholarship, right? How long do you think you'll last if I tell my father you're making the school environment hostile?" The threat hung in the air, real and terrible. Maya's scholarship was everything: full tuition, books, lab fees. Lose it, and she'd be back at the underfunded public school where college was a distant dream. But as she looked at Trent's smirking face, she realized something crucial. If she gave in now, it would never stop. This wasn't about one homework assignment. This was about whether she would spend the next 3 years being someone's unpaid assistant. "Do what you need to do," Maya said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But you're not getting my work." For a moment, genuine surprise flickered across Trent's face. Then it hardened into something darker. "Big mistake. Scholarship girl." He swept his arm across her table, sending her calculator, notebooks, and carefully organized flashcards crashing to the floor. The plastic casing of her calculator cracked against the wood. Her notes, weeks of preparation, scattered under tables and chairs. The librarian, Mrs. Patterson, glanced up from her desk 50 feet away, but quickly looked back down at her computer screen. Maya understood immediately. Mrs. Patterson had seen, had chosen silence. She was alone. Trent stepped deliberately on one of her flashcards as he walked away, grinding it under his heel. "See you around, Chun, and trust me, you'll be seeing a lot of me." The next 3 days were a masterclass in social warfare. Maya arrived Monday morning to find her locker jammed. Someone had shoved gum into the lock mechanism. She spent 15 minutes with a janitor trying to open it, making her late to first period. Tuesday, someone started a rumor that she'd been caught cheating on the midterm. By lunch, half her grade was giving her suspicious looks. Wednesday, she opened her backpack in chemistry to find all her lab notes had been soaked with what smelled like energy drink pages stuck together, ink bleeding into illegible smears. Through it all, Trent watched from across classrooms and hallways, his expression one of mild amusement. He never spoke to her directly again. He didn't need to. His friends did the work shoulder checks in crowded hallways, whispered comments, just loud enough for her to hear. Deliberate exclusion from study groups. Maya tried reporting it to her guidance counselor, Mr. Foster, on Thursday morning. He listened with the expression of someone already composing his dismissal. Trent Morrison? Are you sure, Maya? He's one of our top students. Captain of the lacrosse team. I've known his family for years. They're very generous to this school. The unspoken message was clear. You're replaceable. He's not. Mr. Foster suggested Maya might be misinterpreting typical teenage social dynamics and recommended she try being friendlier. She left his office feeling smaller than when she'd entered. By Friday, Maya was eating lunch in bathroom stalls to avoid the cafeteria, where Trent held court like a king. She was exhausted not from the academics, but from the constant vigilance, the perpetual bracing for the next attack. That afternoon, she stayed late in the computer lab finishing a physics project, the empty school providing brief sanctuary. The lab was on the 3rd floor of the science wing, far from the main office. Maya was alone when the door opened, and Trent walked in, flanked by Derek and Chase. No teacher, no witnesses, just fluorescent lights humming overhead and the click of the door lock engaging. Still think you're too good to help me? Trent asked, circling her desk like a predator. Maya's heart hammered, but she kept her eyes on her screen, fingers continuing to type even as they trembled. There's a quiz Monday. Advanced calculus. 25% of our grade. He reached over her shoulder and slammed her laptop shut, trapping her fingers. Pain shot through her knuckles. You're going to sit next to me. You're going to angle your paper just right. And you're going to make sure I get an A. Maya pulled her hand free, cradling her bruised fingers. No. The words seemed to break something in Trent. His carefully maintained mask of civilized superiority cracked. You think you're brave? He snarled, grabbing a fistful of her hair and yanking her head back. Maya gasped, tears springing to her eyes. You're nothing. Your parents are nothing. You're only here because the school needed to fill a quota. He shoved her chair backward. Maya crashed into the desk behind her, her shoulder exploding with pain. Derek and Chase stood by the door, not participating, but not stopping it either, complicit through silence. Trent loomed over her, his face twisted with rage that seemed disproportionate to her simple refusal. This wasn't about calculus anymore. This was about power, about someone who'd never heard no encountering boundaries for the first time. Last chance, Chen. Maya's shoulder throbbed. Her scalp burned where he'd grabbed her hair. But through the pain and fear, a strange clarity emerged. She thought of her mother, scrubbing hospital floors at midnight so Maya could have opportunities. She thought of her father, whose hands were permanently stained with grocery store-produced dyes, who smiled through the exhaustion because his daughter was going to college. She thought about who she'd become if she surrendered. Now, not just today, but every day after. No, Maya said again, her voice cracking but clear. Something flickered in Trent's eye shock, maybe, or perhaps the first shadow of uncertainty. Then his face hardened. He raised his hand. Behind him, neither Derek nor Chase moved. In that frozen moment before impact, Maya closed her eyes and braced for Step away from her. Now. The voice cut through the room like a whip crack. Trent froze mid-motion. Everyone turned toward the doorway, where Mr. James Whitfield stood, the school's oldest and most respected mathematics teacher. He was 73, officially retired, but teaching one honors section for the joy of it. His gray hair was neatly combed, his bow tie slightly crooked, and his expression was absolutely glacial. Morrison, Andrews, Parker, get away from that girl and sit down in those chairs immediately. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of 45 years of classroom authority. Trent lowered his hand slowly, smoothing his shirt as if nothing had happened. Mr. Whitfield, this is just a misunderstanding. Sit down. The three boys sat. Mr. Whitfield walked slowly to Maya, his cane clicking against the linoleum. Up close, she could see his hand shaking not with age, but with controlled fury. Miss Chung, are you injured? His voice gentled considerably. Maya touched her shoulder, wincing. I'm okay. You're clearly not, but we'll address that shortly. Mr. Whitfield turned back to Trent, and his expression could have frozen nitrogen. I was in the hallway grading papers when I heard furniture moving violently. I looked through the window and saw everything. The hair pulling, the shove, the raised hand. Trent's face went pale. Mr. Whitfield, I can explain to the principal. And the police. The last word hung in the air like a thunderclap. You assaulted a student. In front of witnesses, I might add, though Mr. Andrews and Mr. Parker seemed content to watch. Derek and Chase suddenly found the floor fascinating. Trent stood up, trying to regain his composure, reaching for the charm that usually saved him. Sir, with all respect, my father donates a significant amount to this school. I think we should handle this internally, not involve outside. Your father's money. Mr. Whitfield interrupted, his voice dropping to a deadly quiet. Doesn't purchase the right to assault people. Sit down, Morrison. You're not leaving this room until security arrives. For the first time, genuine fear crossed Trent's face. You can't do this. My dad will have your job. I'm 73 years old and teaching for free because I love mathematics. Mr. Whitfield said calmly, pulling out his cell phone. I don't need this job. I don't need your father's donations. I don't need anything except to ensure that young woman gets justice. He dialed 3 digits 911. Trent lunged forward, trying to grab the phone. It was his final mistake. Mr. Whitfield stepped aside with surprising agility, and Trent stumbled directly into the desk, crying out as he banged his knee. The sound echoed down the empty hallway loud enough. The doors opened, teachers appeared. And suddenly witnesses surrounded the scene. Principal Hartley arrived within minutes, called by one of the other teachers. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, known for running Ridgemont with efficiency, if not warmth. She took in the scene. Maya huddled against the wall, cradling her shoulder. Trent rubbing his knee and looking cornered. Derek and Chase frozen in their chairs. And Mr. Whitfield standing like a guardian angel with his phone still recording. Someone explain. Now. Mr. Whitfield spoke first, his voice calm and precise. Principal Hartley, approximately 10 minutes ago, I witnessed Trent Morrison physically assault Maya Chun, grabbing her hair, shoving her into furniture, and preparing to strike her. I have video evidence beginning from when I started recording through the door window before entering. Miss Chun refused to help him cheat on Monday's calculus quiz, and he responded with escalating violence. Trent finally found his voice, desperation creeping in. That's not she provoked me. She's been hostile for weeks. My father will want to review any accusations carefully before. Your father, Principal Hartley said coldly, is not my boss. The school board is. And the school board cares significantly about lawsuits, which is exactly what we'll face if this young woman's parents decide to press charges. She turned to Maya. Miss Chun, do you need medical attention? Maya's shoulders screamed, but she shook her head. I need to file a formal complaint against Trent Morrison for assault and harassment, and against Mr. Foster for dismissing my initial report. Principal Hartley's eyebrows rose. You reported previous incidents? Thursday morning, Mr. Foster suggested I was misinterpreting social dynamics. The principal's jaw tightened. She looked at Mr. Whitfield. Send me that video immediately. Morrison, you're suspended pending investigation. Andrews, Parker, you'll be questioned as witnesses. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Campus security had called them after Mr. Whitfield's initial report. The scene shifted from school discipline to potential criminal charges. Trent sat in the principal's office with his parents, who'd arrived in matching fury and expensive lawyers. Maya sat in a nurse's office with ice on her shoulder while her mother rushed from work. Still in her janitor's uniform, Mrs. Chum burst through the door with tears streaming down her face, pulling Maya into a fierce hug that made her shoulder throb but felt like salvation. My baby. What did they do to my baby? Officer Rodriguez, a patient woman in her 40s, took Maya's statement with careful detail. She photographed the bruises forming on Maya's shoulder, the redness on her scalp where hair had been pulled. Mr. Whitfield's video provided irrefutable evidence. The case was straightforward assault of a minor, but the Morrison family didn't accept defeat easily. By Monday morning, they'd hired a crisis management firm and a legal team. Trent's father issued a statement claiming his son had been defending himself from aggressive behavior and that the school's overzealous retired teacher had misinterpreted a teenage disagreement. The local news picked up the story, but with a troubling angle. Promising athlete faces charges after school altercation. Maya's name was kept confidential due to her age, but anyone at Ridgemont knew exactly who the victim was. Walking through school Tuesday felt like swimming through hostile waters. Students whispered, some sympathetic, many resentful. Trent's friends circulated counter-narratives that Maya had been the aggressor, that she'd fabricated evidence, that she was trying to extort money from a wealthy family. Maya kept her head down and focused on what she could control: her classwork, her testimony, the truth. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Wednesday afternoon, 3 other students approached Maya in the library, the same library where everything started. Sophia Park, a junior Maya barely knew, sat down across from her with trembling hands. I need to tell someone about Trent Morrison, Sophia said quietly. 2 months ago, he cornered me in the equipment room after basketball practice. He wanted me to write his English paper. When I refused, he grabbed my phone and threatened to post my private messages to the whole school unless I did what he wanted. Maya stared at her. Did you report it? Who would believe me over a Morrison? But I heard what happened to you, and I can't stay silent anymore. Behind Sophia stood Marcus Chun, no relation to Maya and Elena Rodriguez. They had similar stories. A pattern emerged. Trent targeted scholarship students, minorities, anyone he perceived as powerless. Anyone who refused him faced retaliation. Mr. Whitfield helped coordinate testimony. He connected the students with Officer Rodriguez, who realized this wasn't an isolated incident, but systematic abuse enabled by institutional protection. The case expanded. Principal Hartley, facing pressure from both the Morrison family and increasingly negative publicity, called an emergency school board meeting. The boardroom was packed Thursday evening: parents, students, local press. Maya sat in the front row with her parents, Mr. Whitfield beside them. Trent and his family sat across the aisle with their legal team. The gulf between them was more than physical space. It represented different Americas, different assumptions about who mattered and who didn't. The board president, Mrs. Callahan, called the meeting to order. She was a stern woman in her 60s who'd spent her career in education. She listened to statements from both sides, Trent's lawyer painting him as a misunderstood teenager under academic pressure, Maya's testimony detailing months of harassment. Then Mr. Whitfield stood. He approached the podium without notes, his voice steady and clear. I've taught mathematics for 45 years. I've educated 3 generations of Ridgemont students. I've seen privilege and poverty, brilliance and mediocrity. But I've never, his voice hardened, seen such a clear case of institutional failure to protect a vulnerable student. He detailed every incident Maya had reported, every time school administration had looked the other way, because the Morrison name came with donations. He talked about Sophia, Marcus, and Elena, a pattern of abuse systematically ignored. This isn't about one bad student, Mr. Whitfield concluded. This is about whether Ridgemont Academy values justice or money. Whether we protect all our students or just the ones whose parents write checks. The room erupted. Parents who'd been silent found their voices. Teachers who'd witnessed but never reported suddenly came forward. The carefully maintained facade crumbled in real time. Mrs. Callahan gavelled for order. She looked exhausted and angry, Maya sensed, at being forced to confront what she'd long suspected but never acknowledged. The board will vote on expulsion for Trent Morrison, pending criminal proceedings. Additionally, we'll be conducting a full review of our complaint procedures and Mr. Foster's handling of initial reports. Mr. Morrison stood, his face purple with rage. You expel my son, I withdraw every cent of Morrison family support. The athletic center? Gone. The scholarship fund? Gone. Let's see how this school operates without our money. Mrs. Callahan met his eyes without flinching. Then we'll operate with integrity instead. Vote all in favor of expulsion? 5 hands rose unanimous. Trent Morrison's reign ended not with violence, but with a simple majority vote. His father stormed out, already on the phone with lawyers. But the damage was done. The news coverage shifted as more victims came forward. Serial bully protected by wealthy family replaced the earlier sympathetic headlines. The following weeks blurred together. Police interviews, restorative justice meetings, therapy sessions to process trauma. Maya's shoulder healed, but the emotional wounds took longer. She struggled with anxiety in school hallways, jumped at sudden noises, checked over her shoulder compulsively. Her parents, initially overwhelmed by legal complexities, proved fiercely protective. Her father took unpaid time off work to attend every meeting. Her mother wrote a searing letter to the school board about protecting vulnerable students. They weren't wealthy, weren't connected, but they loved their daughter with an intensity that moved mountains. Mr. Whitfield became Maya's unofficial mentor, meeting her weekly for what he called mathematical philosophy sessions. Calculus problems interwoven with life lessons about standing firm against injustice. Trent Morrison faced criminal charges for assault. His lacrosse scholarship to an elite university evaporated. His carefully constructed future crumbled under the weight of his actions. Derek and Chase, the silent witnesses, faced suspension for complicity through inaction. But the real change happened more quietly. Ridgemont Academy implemented new anti-bullying protocols, anonymous reporting systems, mandatory intervention training for teachers, and most importantly, a policy that no donation amount could influence disciplinary proceedings. They hired a full-time counselor specializing in harassment cases. Students formed a peer advocacy group, led initially by Sophia Park, dedicated to supporting victims. The culture shifted slowly but perceptibly. Maya returned to her corner library table 2 months after the attack. She opened her calculus textbook, a new one, since Trent had destroyed the original, and began solving differential equations. The work grounded her, reminded her that some problems had clear solutions if you were patient and precise. Footsteps approached. She tensed automatically. But it was just another student, a freshman named David, nervously holding his math homework. "Excuse me, are you Maya Chun?" I heard you're really good at calculus. Could you maybe explain derivatives? I'm completely lost. Maya looked at him and his hopeful expression and wrinkled homework. She thought about refusing, about protecting herself by remaining isolated. But that would mean letting Trent Morrison's cruelty dictate her behavior forever. Sure, she said, sliding her own work aside. Sit down. Let's start with the basics. As she explained mathematical concepts, watching David's confused expression clarify, Maya realized something crucial. This was power too. Not the destructive power that Trent had wielded, but the generative kind using knowledge to build others up rather than tear them down. The afternoon sun streamed through the library windows, warming her shoulders. Her parents were right about excellence being survival, but Mr. Whitfield had taught her something additional, that excellence meant nothing if not paired with courage. She'd been brave, not when she fought back, but when she refused to compromise her integrity despite overwhelming pressure. The calculus homework spread between them was just numbers and variables, but beneath it lay a more important lesson. Sometimes standing still was the most radical act of resistance. 3 months later, Maya stood at the podium during Ridgemont's annual academic awards ceremony. She received the Mathematics Excellence Award, predictable, but also a new honor the school board had created, the Integrity Award, for students who demonstrate moral courage in challenging circumstances. As Principal Hartley handed her the plaque, she whispered, "Thank you for making us better." Maya looked out at the audience, her beaming parents, Mr. Whitfield dabbing his eyes, Sophia and Marcus and Elena sitting together in solidarity. She thought about writing an acceptance speech about forgiveness and moving forward, but when she opened her mouth, different words emerged. I didn't want this award. I wanted a school where I didn't need to be courageous to simply exist safely. But since we're not there yet, I accept this on behalf of everyone who's been told their dignity matters less than someone else's comfort. She paused. Real change doesn't come from one person standing up. It comes from everyone else standing with them. Thank you to those who stood with me. The applause was thunderous. Later, at home, Maya's mother framed the award and hung it in the living room beside family photos. Her father made Maya's favorite dinner pot stickers and noodle soup. They ate together, 3 people who worked hard and loved fiercely, who understood that victories like this were built on foundations of sacrifice and refusal to surrender. Maya's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I'm sorry for what I didn't do, for standing by and watching. I should have been braver. Derek. She stared at the apology, considering responses. Finally, she typed, I accept your apology. Do better next time. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was possibility, a door left open for growth. That night, Maya returned to her calculus homework, but with lighter shoulders. The equations still challenged her, but they felt manageable now. Everything did. She'd learned the most important lesson of all, that integrity was the only grade that truly mattered. And it was one she'd never let anyone take from her again. The world still contained Trent Morrisons, and it always would. But it also contained Mr. Whitfields and Sophia, Parks and parents who loved unconditionally, and teenage girls who said no, even when every incentive pushed toward yes. That was enough. That was everything. The future still held uncertainty. But Maya faced it unafraid, knowing she'd already survived the hardest test, choosing truth over safety, dignity over compliance, justice over silence. She'd earned that victory, and no one could ever take it away.